Aloha and welcome to this lesson video. We're going to be solving equations for roots. More specifically though, we're going to be using XPuzzles to do this. So our learning target is to be able to solve equations by factoring with XPuzzles to find the x values when the graph, our U-shaped graph, crosses the x-axis. So we want to know what's the value when that graph actually hits that axis. So if we look at this picture, sorry it's not so great on the note sheet, it looked a little better. Where does the graph cross the x-axis? If we're just looking at this picture of this quadratic, a parabola, where does it cross the axis at? It looks like here and here. Now if you're having a hard time seeing that, I asked for what are those x values. So if we kind of count our tick marks, -1, -2, so at x equals -2 is one of the spots, and then over here, 1 over, so x would equal -3. So that would be the two spots that our graph crosses the axis. Now over here on the other side of the screen, I ask for you to factor this expression here. And hopefully you remember from our factoring unit, this is an X puzzle. So the 6 goes on top, the 5 goes on bottom. And what two numbers will multiply to a 6 and add to a 5? Well, that would be the numbers 3 and 2. When you multiply them, you get a 6. When you add 3 and 2, you get a 5. So what do I do with those numbers? Well, remember we set up these groups that start with an X, and then I plot these numbers in. I put +3 and +2. And this would be the factored form. Now down here at the bottom of the screen, it looks like we're not catching all of that. There we go. What is similar or different about your answers considering the graph, so these two x equals values, versus our factoring? Hopefully you notice that, whoops, here we got -3, but in our group we had a +3. And over here we had a -2, but here we had a +2. Okay, so we had the same number, but they were different signs comparing the graph to its factored form. So let's write that. We had the same numbers, but opposite sign. Okay. So that's going to be something we want to remember. So let's actually solve one of our own by using the X puzzle. So the directions say solve for the roots. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to take this work from before, factoring, and we're going to use this to find these values on a graph. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is factor with our X puzzle. Oh, can I squeeze it in? Yeah. So let me set up my X puzzle. The -12 would go on top, and there's understood to be a 1 there, so that would go in the bottom. What two numbers multiply -12 add to a 1? Well, I know I need a negative number and a positive to multiply to a negative. So I'm thinking maybe -3 and a +4. Multiply to -12, add to a +1. So I have this y equals over here, which is a little different from our factoring stuff. We didn't have that. But over here on the right, I'm going to factor like normal. Make my groups, put in -3 plus 4. Now we are solving instead of simply just factoring. So here's what you do. There's just an extra step we've got to remember. This y equals there is kind of your reminder. Take the group and set it equal to 0. Take the other group, set it equal to 0. So hopefully that equal sign is a reminder. Ooh, set the group equal to 0. Okay, then we're going to solve these two guys and see what happens. To undo subtracting 3, because you know I want to get x by itself, I would add 3. So here, x would equal 0 plus 3, a +3. Here I would, to undo adding 4, I would subtract 4. So 0 minus a 4, -4. Okay, so notice like what we talked about when we looked at our picture on the previous slide. Compare the group with the answer, they're just opposite. In the group we had -3, but here at the bottom I got +3. Here I had +4. When I solved, I got -4. Okay, so I guess I forgot, whoops, to fill in my second step. So let me backtrack. After we did our X puzzle, oh yeah, we set each group equal to 0 and solved. Okay, now this is what the directions ask for. Solve for the roots. These are the roots, but let's connect it to a graph. So let me pull up GeoGebra here, and let me move it so it fits your screen. I'm gonna type in the original equation. Whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, let's try this again. Here we go. So f of x equals, I believe it was x squared plus x minus 12. And so I need to zoom out a little bit so we can see the axis. Okay, but take a look, here's my graph. We had, for our answers, let me go back, a +3 and a -4. So let's see if GeoGebra says that. 0 to 5, I could see that being a 3. And 0 to -5, I would say that is -4. I guess we could see a value. Yeah, that looks like about -4. And then the x value there, pretty close to 3. Yeah, so all right. So this is the picture of the equation, so you can see we just found those two values. So that's why we're doing this. Okay, so let's try another one. Whoops, sorry, that was my stapler. I need to do an X puzzle. 60 on top, -17 on the bottom. What two numbers multiply to 60, add to -17? Well, they're either both positive or they're both negative to multiply to a positive number. I think we're going to need -12 and -5. They'll multiply to +60 and add to -17. So notice my notation changed here. This is called function notation. It's the same as having a y there, so don't let that freak you out. So I would have x minus 12, x minus 5. When I set each of these guys equal to 0, I'm going to have to add 12, so that would cancel, but I do it to both sides. Ooh, that was a bad 12. So 0 plus 12 is a positive 12. Here I would add 5. So 0 plus 5 would be a positive 5. So let's check on GeoGebra with this guy. We want 12 and 5. So let me get a new one here. F of x equals x squared plus, nope, minus 17x plus 60. I'll probably have to zoom out some for you. Oh, maybe not. So we wanted positive 5, yep. And we wanted positive 12. Hey, right on, we've got it. Okay, so there's a quick picture of the graph. Perfect, we found the spots. I think that's going to be it for this video. So this is how you solve an equation that's factorable using an X puzzle. And you solve for the roots. So the roots, again, are these two numbers down here. These are the roots, where it crosses the axis. So keep learning, guys. Have fun, and I will see you on the next video.